Chair. Representative Duncan, there's been no shortage of mockery by our colleagues on the other side of the aisle about the names of bills, but I mean, it's very rich and ironic coming from, people that champion something called the Inflation Reduction Act that did nothing but hypercharge the economy and send inflation through the roof. But we wouldn't be discussing these if we didn't have to go toe-to-toe with the Biden administration's regulatory onslaught against various appliances, from gas stoves to refrigerators to dishwashers. And these are certainly things that we're hearing from our constituents. Consumer groups have estimated that under the Biden administration's regulatory regime, that American households will be forced to shoulder thousands of dollars in upgrades as the cost of appliances goes up to meet these ever more strident standards. And I don't think that the American people would agree that these are appliances that are lasting longer. They're actually lasting shorter windows of time in households. Do you think that hitting American families with thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars in extra costs for basic needs like for their cooking and cleaning and air conditioning and furnaces, should that be taken lightly, as our colleagues on the other side of the aisle seem to be? Because that's not what I'm hearing from my constituents. Anything you'd like to add there?
Americans are already paying, as Mr. Norman said, a lot of money under this administration because of inflation. The inflation that we see is a direct result of the Biden administration's policies that started on day one as a war on energy. Energy costs factor into everything that's manufactured in this country, from the manufacturing cost, supply chain issues, electricity cost to run the manufacturing plant, transportation costs that are passed on to the consumer from the transportation companies to the retailer and then to the consumer. And they're tired of it. This is another example where these regulations will limit choices and drive up cost. There's no argument that these new appliances under these standards proposed by the administration will cost more money. And that extends the payback for paying for those appliances much longer. So, this is an example of the Biden administration putting climate and efficiency agenda over everything else. And that agenda has affected everything in Americans' lives. They want Americans to use less energy, but they don't care about the cost.
Thank you. I couldn't agree with you more. I represent constituents. Many live in rural communities in the far western part of New York State. In a state where Democrat-run government has made the decision to one-up the Biden administration and is pushing for even more radical policies to decarbonize and to raise efficiency standards, service operators, utilities. Everyone in our state has indicated that this will cost New Yorkers upwards of $20,000 to even $30,000 to upgrade homes. This is the energy future that the Biden administration, through regulatory action at the Department of Energy, the EPA, and others, is working to foist on the backs of all of the American people. So with that in mind, Representative Duncan, our colleagues on the other side of the dais here today have warned that H.R. 6192 will hobble the Department of Energy's ability to issue emissions-reducing conservation standards. Do you think that slowing down the regulatory machinery within our federal agencies is something that the American people are deeply concerned about?
Absolutely, they're concerned about it. And they should be concerned about the Biden administration's whole-of-government approach to pursuing climate policy over everything else. The energy conservation standards we're talking about here today, they put the climate change considerations over the interest of the American consumer. As I said in my rant earlier, it's too much government. Americans are getting fed up with so much government, and they want, as Mr. McGovern said, they want freedom and liberty. They want the freedom to choose. They want their liberty to innovate, create products that the American consumer wants. As Mr. Norman said, Congressman Williams from Texas is an auto dealer. He's choking on the EVs that he can't sell. That's forced down from the dealers, from the manufacturers to the dealerships, and there's no market for it because the consumer doesn't want it. The consumer wants something else. And I hear that all over South Carolina from the dealers we know. And so the government wants to tell you what kind of car to drive, what kind of appliance to use, that you can't catch rainwater off your house to utilize in your garden or any other uses on your homestead. They want to tell you how to cook food. They want to end your use of gas appliances. Why? It's because they don't like fossil fuels. Joe Biden has said it. He was going to end fracking. It was a war on energy from day one. And this is just another cog in that big wheel of big government from the Biden administration pushing a certain climate agenda, and the American people are paying for it.
Thank you, Reverend, why this legislation is important. I've spoken to folks in my state who work in HVAC, plumbing and electrical, and they've recounted to me how difficult it is to explain to someone, especially seniors on fixed incomes, who, they're retired, they're pinching pennies, but because radical decisions made by unelected bureaucrats, here in Washington or in our state capital in Albany, that the cost of replacing their furnace or other basic appliances just went up by thousands of dollars, and they don't have the same solutions they would have had a year or two ago. For the sake of ensuring an affordable and reliable future for the American people, we need to do everything we can to put the brakes on this administration's Green New Deal agenda. And with that, I yield back, Madam Chair.